Good afternoon, everyone. I shall state that we do have quorum this afternoon for our Committee of Adjustment, and that all of our committee members are present. And we're also here in the presence of our Secretary Jennifer. I'm missing the word there. Secretary Treasurer Jennifer Current. Call this meeting to order 2:03. Item 2 on our agenda is our land acknowledgement statement. The Township of Hamilton is situated within the traditional territory of the Mississauga, Anishinaabe, and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. Our work on these lands respectfully acknowledges their resilience and their long-lasting contributions to the area now known as the Township of Hamilton. Item 3 on our agenda, I will turn to our staff, please, for the explanation of our process.
We'll be having one public meeting for a consent application today. I will be giving a brief presentation or overview of the application, after which we will open up the floor for public comments in the order of those in opposition, if there's anybody in opposition to the application, those in support of the application, anybody seeking further clarification on the application, and the applicant will also have an opportunity to address the committee.
Thank you. Item 4 on our agenda is confirmation of the agenda. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Bruce, second by John. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 5. Do we have any declarations of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof today? Seeing none, that shall be recorded. Item 6, approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Could I have a motion, please, that the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment meeting held on January 9th, 2024 be approved? Moved by Mark, seconded by John. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. There is no business arriving from those previous minutes, nor is there any comments from the committee? No, thank you. New business. Consents, item 9 on our agenda. Today, we have one application being 2024-03 consent, Bickle. And I shall turn this over to our staff for the reading of the planning.
Good afternoon. Application B16 2023 is an application for a property located at or identified as 8362 Smiley Road, part of Lot 19, Concession 4. The property, while it has a Smiley Road address, is actually located or has frontage on Burnham Street and does not actually have frontage on Smiley Road. The existing dwelling is currently accessed via an easement over the property known as 8362 Smiley Road. So this application is intended for the creation of a developed rural lot. The area to be severed has an area of approximately 3.5 hectares, and it has 6 meters of frontage on Burnham Street or County Road 18. That is right, yes, County Road 18. The retained parcel has an area of approximately 22.5 hectares with frontage also on County Road 18. So as I mentioned earlier, the property is currently accessed via an easement over a property with frontage on Smiley Road. With this proposal, the severed lot containing an existing dwelling, a detached garage, and a shed will have access from the 6 meter frontage on County Road 18. Now, I acknowledge that the 6 meter frontage is unusual. It is small. Usually a property has a much larger frontage than this. There is an existing entrance on the property, an old driveway that used to go up the hill and provide access to the property, which has been abandoned, and over the years they've used the Smiley Road easement. Northumberland County has been out and reviewed the proposed entrance off of Burnham Street and confirmed that a viable entrance is possible there. So the subject property is located on the east side of County Road 18. There's a vegetated slope that rises from County Road 18 or Burnham Street up to a plateau on which the existing dwelling is located. There's also some cultivated fields up on the top of the plateau that are currently under agricultural cultivation. There's a water course that traverses the southeast corner of the property. And that portion of the property is regulated by the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority. Camborne, a designated settlement area, is located west of the subject property. However, the settlement area designation does extend over to the eastern portion, just to cover the strip of land, the strip of residential development along the County Road 18. The majority of the subject property is not within the designated settlement area. Land uses to the south, east, and north are predominantly medium and larger size rural properties. A tributary of Coburg Creek flows through lands located east and south of the property, and it is that same water course that traverses the subject property. Lands along and surrounding the water course remain fairly heavily forested. The subject or the majority of the subject property is designated rural in the township's official plan. And the provincial policy statement contains policies that do allow for limited residential development in rural areas, provided the lots are appropriately sized to accommodate the proposed development. The 3.5 hectare severed property is sufficiently sized to accommodate the existing well and septic system. And the 22.5 hectare retained parcel is sufficiently large enough to accommodate any future residential development on the property. And when I say future residential development on the property, that is a single detached dwelling and accessory uses and additional units as permitted in the township's zoning bylaw. That is, we're not anticipating, nor is it permitted intense subdivision development on that property. Northumberland County, as I mentioned, reviewed the application and they determined that there is a sufficient entrance for the proposed severed lot. And they have required they recommended as a condition of consent that the applicant lay out and dedicate to the County of Northumberland a strip of land ensuring 18.25 meters from the center line of County Road 18 along the frontage of the severed and retained portions for road widening purposes to the satisfaction of Northumberland County. This is their standard request for all consent or development applications that are located on a county road. They want to make sure that their county road right of way is sufficiently wide enough to, as required by their plans. Northumberland County Inspection Services reviewed the application and they commented that the existing sewage system for the severed lot must be entirely contained on the parcel. And they have requested as a condition of consent that the applicant provide to the county a design by a qualified individual illustrating the location of the existing septic system to confirm that it is located entirely within the proposed severed lot. They also noted or commented that the existing driveway appears to be narrow and due to the siting of abutting buildings and structures, private sewage systems servicing these properties may encroach onto the severed parcel's driveway. And the county could not find any septic records confirming the location of the existing septic systems on the adjacent properties. So the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and growth plan, which does allow for limited locally appropriate residential development in rural areas, provided that the appropriate services can be provided and maintained. The property is not located on the Oak Ridges Moraine, so the Oak Ridges Moraine Conservation Plan doesn't apply. And like the township official plan, the Northumberland County official plan designates the property rural areas and rural settlement areas That small strip across along the frontage is within the Camborne settlement area. The county official plan permits lot creation in rural areas consistent, provided they comply with the lot creation policies in the township official plan. So the township official plan does allow for lot creation in rural areas. Sorry, excuse me. And section 11.4 of the official plan contains the lot creation policies. And these policies want to make sure that the lots are appropriately sized. They can handle the services that are required, that they have frontage on a year-round municipally maintained road. Our OP policies allow for up to 3 severances from a property as it existed on October 21st, 2003. There have been no severances from this property since that time. So the official plan policies permit residential uses along with the associated accessory resident uses to a residential use on the property. Now, the property does have less frontage than we usually see. And in the review of the application, the applicant did provide an alternative that extended the lot further to the north, but the driveway was still going to be in the same location. So it would have more frontage on paper, but the effect is the same. And so that's why the lot configuration remained as it is. So the property is currently zoned marginal agriculture and environmentally sensitive areas in the township zoning bylaw. The minimum lot area requirement for the marginal agriculture zone is 2 hectares, and they require 60 meters of frontage. So the retained lot, which is a larger 22.5 hectare lot, will comply with the requirements for the marginal agriculture zone. However, the proposed severed lot will have to be rezoned to a special rural zone, which will recognize the reduced lot frontage. The environmentally sensitive areas overlay, which is applied to the southeast corner of the property where the water course is, will remain. And if there's any development within that area, a Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority permit would be required. So the application was circulated to Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority, Hamilton Township Building Department, Hamilton Township Building Services, Township Public Works, and Northumberland County. Ganaraska commented that the Cobourg Creek tributary and associated valley lands that traverse the subject property are natural hazards, and they're regulated by the GRCA. The existing dwelling and associated accessory uses is not within a regulated area, and there is lots of land on the proposed retained land to allow for construction of a dwelling and associated uses well outside the GRCA regulated area. They just wanted it noted that if any development was proposed within the regulated area, that they would require a GRCA permit. Township of Hamilton commented that they Public Works commented that they have no comments because the property fronts on a county road and the county will be responsible for entrance permits. The Township of Hamilton Building Department had no objection. And County of Northumberland commented that there are no matters of provincial and county interest. They did recommend that the 2 conditions be added, the one for road widening and the other for the confirmation of that the septic system is located on the retained parcel. Those conditions the severed parcel. Those conditions have been included in the draft or the recommendations for the report. Notice of the application was circulated to all registered landowners within 60 meters of the subject property on January 30th, and a sign was posted on the property on January 29th. One area resident called and attended the municipal office to discuss the application. They expressed concern regarding runoff from the subject property, which had previously impacted their property. The area is in the southwest portion of the property, and there's been no construction in that area. The construction of the new dwelling on the retained parcel will require the completion of a lot grading plan to ensure that there's no negative impact, drainage impact on adjacent properties. In reviewing the potential entrance location on the retained parcel, the applicant retained an engineer to demonstrate that there is safe entrance onto the retained lands. That entrance is located at the northeast corner of the property, well away from the area of concern. A copy of the residential site entrance assessment prepared by Engage Engineering was attached to the report as attachment C. So the proposed entrance onto the larger retained property is to come off of Burnham Street or County Road 18 in the northeast corner of the property. A telephone call on behalf of another of the landowner immediately south of the subject property was received, and they wanted to know if additional traffic will be added to the easement over their property. And it was explained that their new entrance to the property, the retained property, would come off of the northern portion of the subject property. A second party attended the municipal office to review the application and inquire about future development on the parcel. They were concerned there had been some discussion. Sometimes things get discussed in the public world and they grow lives of their own, about a proposal for 6 lots on this property, and there is no proposal for 6 lots on the subject property. So the application is located in a rural part of the municipality outside of the Oak Ridges Moraine with frontage on year-round municipally maintained road. There is sufficient room for the construction of a dwelling and accessory uses on the proposed retained lot. And the applicant has provided a submission indicating that there is access available to the proposed severed lot. So the recommendation is that the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement, complies with the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, maintains the intent of the county and township official plan, and it's recommended that it be approved subject to the conditions contained in the report. And the proposed severed lot will have to be rezoned to recognize the reduced lot frontage. And I recognize today in our audience, one of the people that attended the municipal office, so I'm not sure if they have any further questions.
Thank you, Jennifer. I will follow that comment. I know the family name here, but I don't know the applicant or anyone present. So our process at this point in time is to open the floor to the public. And there is a process that we follow, and I'll just go through that in case that someone hears the applicant. And the process is we ask for those in support of the application, those in opposition to the application, and those seeking clarification to the application. And then we go to the applicant. So I'll bounce back to that. Our process is to invite anyone wishing to speak to our podium, and I think I see the light for the microphone on. So I'll ask, is there anyone here in support of the application? Is there anyone here in opposition to the application? I believe you might be 2 separate parties, so between yourselves, please, one come to the podium and speak and provide us with your comments, and then we'll go to the second person. The first thing we would ask you is to state your name and your address so that just so we can have that in the minutes.
Matthew Keel, 3431 Burnham Street North.
Thank you. Please continue.
Okay, I don't, gentleman that came down and spoke to me at my house, and we spoke about a few different things. One was being, I have a river that comes down off of that driveway every spring, and I was laughed at and said, it's not his problem, it's Mother Nature. So that is a big concern of mine. I just, in the process of building a brand new home there, and I don't want it flooding like the old one did. My other concern is I have about a couple of 100 trees that have been dead since the ash borer bug came. There's been about 6 fall in the last year, landing on numerous things of mine in the backyard. I spoke to them with that, and I was also told it's Mother Nature. So I have concerns with that. I have 4 small children that run around in my backyard daily. I don't want them getting hit by a dead tree. And the other one is when they come down off the driveway, What if they come right over the edge at that bend? They're coming right into our backyard. And I personally think that's quite dangerous if somebody's right there.
Can we turn to staff? Maybe there's other staff present in the room that could help us answer these questions or concerns.
I forgot to mention in my review of the report that I did include a recommendation that for the proposed new driveway, that the applicant shall submit a driveway design for the new driveway, providing access to the severed parcel prepared by a qualified professional engineer to the satisfaction of the Township of Hamilton. That's because we want to make sure that there are no drainage problems associated with the properties immediately adjacent to it. And we want to make sure it's designed with the appropriate slopes and grades and turning radiuses and such. So that has been included as a condition of consent. So they would be required to complete that design prior to the severance ever being finalized.
Before our records, we actually need to come back to the microphone. We can hear you within the room, but for the tape records.
Okay, sorry about
Sorry.
I also have to the east of my property is that huge valley that's beside the driveway. And I'm getting literally water from the field, the driveway, and off to the side as well. So like, yeah, okay, if they get a proper driveway in, it's still not gonna solve the whole issue. Like, I have videos of literally like a river coming down and actually have the city stopping at the house, giving me crap because I got mud flowing down onto the road, which I clean daily when it's happening, but I literally followed it up with videos and it's literally coming right from the field.
For clarity for me and maybe other committee members, Jennifer, your comment about engineering and design of the driveway is for a new driveway on the retained,
Severed.
on the severed. It's not that 6 meter wide driveway, or it is?
It is that 6 meter wide driveway. I included that condition because for the new, if there's a new building proposed on the retained parcel, the larger parcel, the entrance will be done through the county, and the driveway can be looked at through the submission of the lot grading plan when they submit their building permit application. But because the severed parcel is already developed, we don't have an opportunity to review a lot grading plan at that time, at the time of a building permit issuance. And while there is an existing driveway there, I wanted to include, I mean, that driveway's been around for quite a few years, I believe, and it hasn't been used. But I want to make sure that it meets our requirements for safe access and for grading to make sure we don't exacerbate any problems on existing properties. So that's why I included that as a condition. I would have liked to be able to include a requirement for site plan, but the province took that away from me when they changed the Planning Act. And I can't require site plan approval for single detached dwellings and properties like that anymore.
And is Mr. Kehoe, did I hear that
Yes,
correctly?
yes.
The valley runoff area that you speak of is somewhere else on the severed parcel other than that where the driveway is located. Did I hear that?
Yes, you're
correctly?
correct. The driveway is literally higher up and it just valleys in right beside the driveway.
So it is adjacent to the new proposed driveway, which is a 100-year-old driveway, by the way.
I'm gonna sound kind of dumb, but I don't know what that means. Yes, yes.
It's adjacent to where the proposed driveway is. Okay. In my history here, I can tell everyone that was an existing driveway. And I've traveled it several times in many years ago. And when you look at it now, it certainly doesn't even look like a driveway. But okay, I've got an understanding. Little out of process here, but would the committee members have any questions specifically of Mr. Kehoe when he's at the podium? None at this point in time. So I think we understand what you're saying and have an understanding of where it is on the property. So we'll I'm sure you're staying in the audience. We'll go to the next gentleman and simply ask, again, name, location.
My name's Josh Landry. I'm actually Matt's neighbor at 3439 Burnham Street. I just have a couple of questions about it. You mentioned that the driveway that's there exists in the old one is a lot smaller than you usually have for driveways for the, you said it was 8 meters, was it? 6 meters for the entryway?
Sorry, no, I didn't, I don't believe, or if I did, I spoke incorrectly. I didn't give, the frontage is smaller
Frontage
than
is
it's
smaller.
normally
So what is the
required, rather than the
frontage?
driveway. Normally, a rural lot has 60 meters of frontage,
Of frontage.
but we don't
Have that.
we don't have that here. And they did do a design where, a lot design where the lot went further to the north and wrapped around the existing residential lots, and it would have given them enough theoretical frontage on the property. However, the functional entrance would still be at the same place with the 6 meters. Northumberland County did go out and undertook, they had the driveway staked, and they did do a review and confirmed that they would issue an entrance permit for that property.
So
at
why
that
do you usually
location.
want 60 meters of frontage and they're getting away with 8 meters of frontage?
Because usually, if you look at the lots along, I think that's up on the screen.
Yep.
If you look at the lots, usually you've got your house built sort of in the middle of your lot, and then you've got your side yard setbacks and your front yard setback and
Correct.
everything to keep everything. And you need 60 meters to make sure everybody's spaced further apart. But in this case, the house is on top of the hill, well
Correct.
away from everybody else, and you're not on top of your neighbor, because you're well up ahead. You've got your up on top of the hill. So you're well
Yes.
separated from the adjacent residential uses. So the driveway's just coming in on the small bit.
Okay, so then that leads into my next couple of questions is why can't they, if they own 22.5 hectares all around this severed portion, why can they not run a driveway elsewhere?
They did a review of this property, and you're familiar with the area, and you're familiar with the curves and the topography and everything else.
Yep.
There was very limited opportunities for entrance locations.
So Smiley Road was not an option? and
This
going
property
around
doesn't have frontage on Smiley Road.
The property that they're trying to sever, correct? So why are they severing there and not severing elsewhere on the property? Like, why are they severing that 3.5 hectares?
Well, the alternative would have been to sever, I suppose, the only other entrance location. If you could scroll down to the traffic review right there. Okay, this is the traffic review that they retained and Engage Engineering to review. And the alternative entrance location that they're going to be using for the retained parcel is that white line or that blue line. And that's where the engineer went out and found appropriate sight lines and appropriate grade to get an entrance. At one point in time, they were looking, I believe, at severing 3 lots off. And it was determined that there are not sight lines so that they could get 3 entrances.
So
That's what,
this is another option.
no,
driveway?
that is the option of the driveway for a building on the retained parcel. A new house. This is the plan that they provided to us. It's Northumberland County reviewed
So
the
they want
existing
old
driveway.
house to use the old driveway that's behind our.
Yeah.
house, and They want their new home to take this driveway.
That is the
That is
proposal.
the proposal.
I'm gonna stop you for a second because I think I have a valuable question for clarity again.
Okay.
This property, to my knowledge, enjoys a right of way to the south to Smiley Road.
Correct.
If we went out right now, we wouldn't be using the old Olaf Snellgrove driveway up
No.
over Burnham Street, we'd be going up Smiley. Is that right of way going to be tied to any of these 2 properties, whether it be severed or retained? Like, it's not going to disappear, this right of way. And would it be tied to the 22.5 acres?
So that's where their driveway is right now.
Correct.
They're using Smiley Road driveway. So why are they
By
not,
means of a
why are they
right of
not
way.
proposing this, not even using this whole goat path that's going behind our house? Using this driveway for one property, using the right of way for the other property.
So
It's
where
not
would that
affecting our
right of
homes
way off
whatsoever.
of Smiley be tied into? Would it be tied into the 22.5 acres because of where it approaches?
Unless, unless the easement is removed from a portion of the property, the easement right now would go with the entire property because the easement is in effect now. The easement exists now. So when you sever a property, the easement will go with both the severed and the retained unless the easement is released from a portion of the property.
We could be looking at technical entrance and a real physical use entrance
It's,
with no change.
we
Oh,
could,
we
we
could-
could be. It was my understanding when they submitted their application that it was their intention to use the new entrance and to retain the old, we'll call it the old or the existing entrance at this point in time, for access for farm vehicles to the retained parcel. But right now, they are correct. There is an existing entrance over Smiley. There's a legal easement over that to get access to the proposed severed lot. I believe that with this application, that easement will not disappear unless it is removed from the title because it predates the severance application.
So another question, sorry. When they're updating this old driveway that's running behind our properties, they are gonna put in some kind of a drainage system so that the water coming down into our properties, because I have a similar issue as Matt does, that every spring, the water from the farmer's field up the top of the hill runs down the back of the property, even with us spending our own money. Build drainages around the sides of our houses, trying to lead into the water system for the county. We still can't combat the amount of water that's coming down. So
Right.
so
And
when they do the driveway, update it,
Mhm.
are they gonna be updating some sort of a drainage system to help with that water?
that would be part of the engineering design of the driveway to make sure that there will be no increased because
And not,
sort of the principle,
Runoff.
sort of the principle of development is pre-development and post-development flows. They can't exacerbate an existing situation, but if there's runoff that's through no fault of their own right now, whether that is the case or not, I'm not here to argue that. They,
down my property, it's pretty hard, have a bad.
yes, I understand. Drainage will be addressed, but whether it would completely alleviate the existing problem, I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I don't know.
The process with these conditions has been put in place to require engineering, to require works to be reviewed and protect water runoff from this development onto adjacent property. That sounds good if it is implemented. And our process is such that you have to do that in advance to getting the deed stamp. Am I correct?
They have to have the way the condition is worded right now is that they have to have the engineering design created prior to finalizing the severance. Another option would be that you could require them to actually have the engineered design done and the entrance constructed so that it can be signed off prior to the
Saying before they
finalizing.
build it.
Well, there is no more there is no more proposed development on the severed lot because the severed lot is already developed with the existing dwelling.
With that slight change in that condition, we could have engineering design done, work done prior to the deed being stamped.
Correct. And we,
I'll leave that as a
Yeah.
question, because that would be a committee debate and conclusion, not me as an individual of the committee. Any further comment?
I'll just add my same comment as Matt had about the traffic through the backs of our property. So we've seen more traffic on that little goat path driveway in the last couple of months with them coming and going, with people coming to check the property lines and so on and so forth. Never really realized that road was back there. So headlights coming in and out of my backyard, 10 o'clock at night. I also have a new daughter, 1 year old. She's gonna be playing on that back hill. It's a steep runoff from the driveway right into my backyard. If so, in the winter months, when you're coming down a 45-degree hill like that, and you come sliding down that road, they will come into my backyard. So I just want that noted as well, that I'm worried about my daughter in my backyard.
I think that's very clear, and I think we all understand.
Okay.
If no one else to make a comment, and I don't know whether there is, please, sir.
I'll just leave my last thing. My thoughts on it is just, why can't they use that driveway and their old driveway at Smiley and scrap the go path driveway? It's the only thing that might make this better for the three of us. Okay?
Thank you. I'll turn to the next gentleman, please. Again, name and address.
Good afternoon, John Matson, 3419 Burnham. Been there since 1996. I've been before council before for my own purposes. I do have a vested interest. I was here to visit Jennifer last week on this because I had a lot of stuff going on where I want to follow up, and because I've been hearing rumblings about what's going on with that hill. I find it interesting that nobody's here that's for the applicant, given the severity and importance to somebody. And I understand there's no declaration of conflict amongst staff, that there's any invested interest in this as either a vehicle or association. I find that interesting that there's nobody here to represent themselves. There would be great many other neighbors here, because everyone along the last map you showed, from the new gentleman Ed to my south of me with the switchback driveway. I'm opposite the church, opposite Don Iman. There's several neighbors to the north, to the last house heading north for that proposed entrance. I'm assuming the driveway is not very clear for an engineer's concept. I'm a little disappointed at what I'm seeing. I concur with my neighbors that I think the entrances the way they are have been suitable. That goat path, whether it's 18 feet across, it's the gentleman that owns that, the two, Jackie and that young man that own it now, they spiked the center of his driveway, putting in that 8-foot, 18-foot allowance. So there's a variance issue there already, and probably a bit of a allowance that needs to be justified. I know that driveway, and I've already heard that that new owner has been coming down there at a horrendous speed with a plow, and there's kids and dogs on those neighboring driveways. I know the runoff they get because I've been before council. It'll be in your records that I've made files for the gentleman, previous owner. I won't call him a gentleman because he was far from that. He was very arrogant about being a kind neighbor, and at least the gentleman, I think it's a white that farms his property, at least put the berms in that used to be along our fence lines and tree lines. There used to be fieldstone berms to disseminate and mitigate the water runoff. Those are long washed out, similar to the driveway, 100 years old. So the runoff I get has been at all my expense with renting equipment, digging Big O and everything else about around my property, and my barn and my outbuildings and my home has been flooded numerous times. All because somebody wasn't kind enough to have the gentleman that's on the combine bring his backhoe instead and do 4 hours worth of berm work. His answer was, because he was a former Toronto lawyer, so he thinks he's a big shot. The topography is natural and I can't do anything about nature. Well, as soon as you put a plow in the ground, you change topography. As soon as you cut trees down to make it a farm field, you've changed topography. So there's a lot of arguments that, and this, the bylaw here couldn't do much because there's no outbuildings that butted against the property line. Again, pretty archaic stuff on file here. I went to a great deal. I've met with Arthur before in the past about some of the way things are done here. Some of these things are kind of archaic and should be looked at. I found your way of doing business much more approachable than the former because the communication has been that much better. Where people like us, this isn't what we do day to day. So to have a lay terms, what you just read for the last 10 minutes as a brief is a lot of language. Illustrations are far better, so you can see what's going on here. Earlier was mentioned about rumblings about 6 parcels. The county allows 3. So has there been 3? Because he said there hasn't been anything on 6. If you didn't go into clarity, if there's been anything on 3 parcels. One Severance wouldn't be so bad, that they do what they want to do and build to the northeast, the way I understand. And use the new driveway that's proposed for the engineer drawing that was up there. Wouldn't really have any impact on us. That doesn't really take away from the issues that does happen with the current driveway the way it is, or the topography of that land. It all slopes to my property, all of it. I get the rivers these fellows are talking about probably threefold. I've got videos too. And because if I don't want to get hear about it from the county, I got to do something to disseminate it on my 2+ acres by the time it hits the road. I've done that at a great deal of expense because I've been there since '96 to correct it. Not my issue though, it's coming from another source. You already said the runoff. It's well noted where the runoff goes. So things need to be looked at here. You know, the Severance, if they left the driveways the way they are, the entrance point, and then put the new one in for their new dwelling, probably not an issue for anybody. But that doesn't really resolve the issues that we're all getting with basement flooding now, today, and yesterday since 1996. So it really doesn't resolve any of that, sadly. There was a mention up there a few slides back about the Hamilton, not the county, not the town, but they were looking into a pool. What did that mean? Can you explain what the pool? There was a question. I don't know what that had to do with. Want to go back, what I want to clarify is there's no other applications for severances for potential development. Only a single dwelling that is going to come out of this, in addition to the retained. So really, I'm against it because I have questions. I want clarity. And some of these other things to be satisfied where maybe we won't be as opposed, more so much as appeased to what's about to take place. So the pool question, did you see that there?
Just a minute before we got a couple answers for you coming.
Sure.
Do you have any other questions? And then
I might. Yes, please.
So, all right, we'll answer those now at this point.
Okay, we'll go back to the first one where you were asking about I mentioned 3 severances. Originally, they approached the municipality with a proposal, we usually do a pre-consultation when somebody's proposing a severance to look and see whether we can support it or not support it, whether there's going to be any issues. I believe they came up, this was sort of during a transition between my predecessor and me, but they had come up with a concept for 3 severances on the north, sort of the northeast, along the frontage, along the northern portion of the property. They were proposing to create three lots. That was reviewed, and Northumberland County reviewed that proposal and said, no, we can't support this. There isn't sufficient sightline for 3 driveways in this area. The applicant then retained the engineer, Engage Engineering, who looked at the options and said, okay, we found a good viable entrance option for 1 driveway up here. And that's why we ended up with the application that we currently see before us. It's just 1 application for a severance. They're not creating any more lots, so there's no proposal for 3 more lots or 6 more lots or anything at this point in time.
Okay, so while you're on it, thank you for
I
clarifying.
I'm just going to expand on that.
Okay,
And when I said that a single detached dwelling can be built on the retained part, that is correct. But our zoning bylaw also allows for, they call them additional dwelling units. You can have 1 additional dwelling unit, and that is anybody within a residential zone can have, that's not on the Oak Ridges Moraine, can have 1 additional dwelling unit within their existing dwelling and 1 additional dwelling in an accessory building. So that is something that was brought to us by the Planning Act of Ontario that required us to all municipalities in Ontario to change our zoning bylaws and our planning documents to allow for additional dwelling units. So that's.
does that mean a fixed, a home built on foundation? Or does that mean someone could put a sea container up there?
No,
and
it means
there's lot
a
of
dwelling
definition.
unit in compliance with the building code.
So they can technically build another home.
They can build, now the maximum dwelling area of an additional dwelling unit in an accessory building is just over 1,000 square feet. So it's like, I think it's like 1,005 square feet. An additional dwelling unit within an existing dwelling is 2,000 square feet.
Within. So you're
Within.
using the same footprint. We're
Yes.
broadening the footprint. So does the land have anything to do with that? I know they had hectares. You mentioned 22. Does it matter when you say this bylaw was implemented that this could be a new allowance? Does it matter how big the property is?
No, our zoning bylaw doesn't contain a minimum lot area. However, you have to confirm that that there is sufficient servicing and like
Okay.
the
I
room
just
for your they have to
thinking how
have,
much
they
we
have
might
to
see
have,
this
they
go
have to
on.
have septic, they have to have water. There's a water hydrogeology study that's required to confirm there's adequate supply of water and everything else.
Okay, thank you. So that one driveway, I know the engineer engaged, I think you said, perhaps their credentials should be available to people like us too. To see who they are. No, I wasn't answered if there's a conflict of interest or anybody that's in the Bickle family, or that's because it certainly seems strange that somebody's not here to represent them.
That
Yeah.
question was asked by myself.
You
I think-
declared you didn't have any, but I don't believe anybody else did.
Actually, everyone did. I asked the question if there was any declaration of pecuniary interest throughout the whole meeting.
That's
In
what
this particular-
pecuniary
In,
means.
in
Okay.
this particular
See, language.
situation, the whole meeting is one application.
Yeah,
And there was no declaration of pecuniary interest, so you can move forward with the thought, there's no connections here. The other thing that you've asked, that we have yet to answer, is the swimming pool. And based on
it
my,
just said pool. I didn't know it was even a swimming pool. It just said question about a pool. And I
well,
thought, what is
I
that?
believe the phrases are interchangeable. In this particular case, the swimming pool is being reviewed as to whether it was placed there legally with municipal approval or not.
Okay.
And at the time of the writing of the report, and I don't know whether it's changed or not, the time of the writing of the report, that review was still ongoing. That is a municipal issue that will be addressed.
That was the only thing I seen caught by the township, so that's why it was of interest. And I find it interesting that it's a county road and the county approved such, but it's your citizens of the township that are being affected. So, there's a lot of questions here, and I think, what they do with that existing cow path of a driveway, I know where it is. I know exactly where it is because my daughter's actually 2 doors up too. And then I have 2 neighbors that share that. And I know what they experience for runoff. I feel for them because they're right close to that driveway. If someone sweeps around that hill, they're going to be in their backyard. So that's a huge question. I'm with these gentlemen that why not use the existing Smiley easement? And if they do go ahead and grant the new entranceway to the north, why not make that a mutual driveway to access that new severed lot? And just forego the whole idea of using that 18. I don't even know if it covers from desk to desk. It's not a big area. I think that's about what I had for questions, other than it came up already. And because we're only talking about this driveway, we're still not talking about the parcel of land and what it's causing for runoff damages to us at our expense. Whether these bylaws of agricultural field and there's no home close to the property, that I know what the runoff they experienced over by Sandercox last year. You folks were over there in the worst of times because of the runoff there, and that's somebody has to correct that because it comes out to the roads. And then you have folks like us, and that wasn't the farm. That was not Sandercox's fault. It's something's got to be done with our runoff, period. So, and Matt mentioned deadfall. I've got deadfall on my property because you mentioned a gentle vegetated slope. Not really gentle vegetated slope. The trees are bad shape, not just because of the insects that's harming them, but it's so wet that they're not rooting. So we all have deadfall on our property. That's precarious to they call them widow makers for a reason. So yeah, I still have questions. I don't know where to stand on this because you mentioned stamping a deed. Well, we're putting the cart before the horse because we haven't even, I don't even think it's been resolved if this severance has taken place. So maybe correct how you say that. So
That
for-
reference was made by me several times And of course, it's a reference in time that the conditions that we're about to consider would have to be implemented before the stamping of the deed. And the stamping of the deed, and you have history, as you said, you've been here before the committee before. And yes, we all acknowledge that, or those of us that were here acknowledge that. No property is created until that moment in time of the stamping of the deed. So that's the drop dead date for the conditions to be considered and implemented by. So there is no stamping of the deed today. There is no lot today. This is referred to as conditional or provisional consent if in fact approved.
Gotcha.
And the committee have yet to speak,
Yeah.
so we don't know where the committee is at this point in time. So I would like to move to them. If you have anything new to add,
don't think
that would be
so.
wonderful.
No, I don't think so.
All right, I thank you, and I'll now turn to the committee members.
More of a question. When do you make your decisions? Today, not today.
Yeah, well, it can be.
It can't be today.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
can make, you can stamp your deed today.
Oh, no. We make conditional or provisional
That
decision
goes back-
today.
that goes
A
back to
deed,
days.
a deed may be anytime within 2 years.
You are making your decision today if the severance is going. Or the- sorry.
We can be. We don't know yet because we haven't heard from committee members.
We understand.
I'm just gonna do a 30-second.
Okay, Jennifer's gonna do, I think what she's saying is a 30-second overview
A
here.
30-second overview of the consent process, Reader's Digest version. Somebody applies for a severance. We do our public circulation, our agency circulation. We have our public meeting like this. If it's approved subject to, in this case, I've got 9 conditions. And they have 2 years to fulfill these 9 conditions. And if they, once they can do it faster than the 2 years, but when they get their conditions fulfilled, they satisfy everything on the checklist, then I issue what's called a certificate of official, and the deed is stamped and registered. So they've got 2 years to do that. If they don't do that within 2 years, it's called lapsing. The consent lapses and it just disappears. But what is granted today is conditional. It's just a condition, if the committee approves it, it's a conditional consent and they've got 2 years to fulfill these conditions. If they don't fulfill them, then it goes away.
So essentially, you could put in there as one of the conditions being, we need to add drainage to this driveway, so our backyards are getting water running off them. They have to meet those conditions to be able to even separate.
That is one of, that is one of the considerations that can be factored in by the committee members. Yes.
All right, I
Okay.
don't understand the process.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move to our committee members. Questions, comments? Who would like to start? John, please.
That's you, Chair. I have problems with the driveway. I had a good look at it. I stopped at the side of the road and had a good look at it the other day. When they talked in the 7.7% slope with a feasible for construction perspective, that kind of caught my eye and going, well, that's, we had some of the residents here today refer to as a goat path. Yeah, when you talk about construction perspective, I think that you'd be awful careful if you ever took any kind of construction truck up that goat path, I'll refer to it as being, because that's all it is right now. Yeah, so, and the other problem I have too is the hydro pole is right there beside the so-called driveway. And then you have the individual's private driveway beside that. And there's no room for 66 feet. There's no room for 4 feet or 5 feet. So they'd have to impede on the neighbor's driveway to get up that slope, or either that or remove the hydro pole somewhere else to make it straight. The other thing I've got is I have witnessed Mr. Kehoe out on Burnham Street, endangering his own life, cleaning off the silt from the runoff from his residence and other residents along the roadway. And I find that very disturbing that he has to do that because the county feels that he's responsible to remove it because it comes out of his property when it's not. I have watched and witnessed that come down over the hill. So I have a real issue with that. And I think there should be more conditions put on this property owner if if we move forward with it. And I think there should be more conditions such as proper drainage in the field, driveway, et cetera, because these homeowners do not deserve that type of treatment from any other property owners. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'll simply go around the room. Larry, comments, questions?
My only comment is it seems that we've got a lot of conflicting ideas and confusion here. Plus, we've got a problem with floodplain that this has been going on for years. It seems to me we have an opportunity that we may be able to correct this problem so that the current user, I guess it's a new owner, I should say, maybe a little bit more, amicable to do something about this property to save the destruction that's happening on the other properties. But it seems to me that I would be in favor of deferring this until we sort out some of these issues, with regards to the driveway and also the incurring floodplain problems that are occurring on this property to the other properties. It's not fair to everyone to have these kinds of issues forward. So my position would be to defer this until we can evaluate and take a closer look at what's going to happen in the future. That was my position, is just to defer it now.
Thank you, Larry. Mark?
I'm sitting exactly where Larry is. I'm kind of looking at deferring it and perhaps having the applicant look at the other avenue going back to Smiley Road and using that as their entrance. Perhaps that would solve some of these issues. I do have one other question I'd like to ask. I do see the building department made the comment that after they mentioned the pool, they also said they still struggle with the planning and for the frontage. Was that regarding the same issues that we've heard today, Mike, or is that something above and beyond, or what is that?
I think Jennifer's gonna answer that. Mike may or may not have been involved with that comment, so we'll go to the planning end of that.
I had a discussion with Tim about the entrance or the reduced lot frontage being 6 meters, and that was his concern. He was wondering, why do we require 60 meters of frontage when in this case we're saying 6 meters? And as I explained to one of the gentlemen, I can't remember which one in the audience, that the 6 meters will get us the entrance or the sufficient driveway entrance that you need. But given the fact that the house is situated well back to the east of the existing residential development, they don't need the additional space to meet your side yard setbacks, the space for the house and everything else. Like all of their yard setbacks are addressed back there. It's not like a typical residential situation where you have the lots side by side and the houses are all sort of lined up in a row and you've got your required 6 meter or whatever setback from your side property lines. In this case, the house is set back farther. So it's distanced that way. And that was his comment.
Follow up on that just a little bit. Since we've only got 6 meters frontage there, what about snow removals and things like that? Is that something that the engineer would look at when he's doing his driveway analysis at that time? Because I'm a little worried that, like this year, we're not getting snow, but some years we can get, if we're getting anything like they're getting down east, where are you going to put that snow? And it's going to end up right on the neighbors' lots and yards.
Yes, they would have to dispose of their snow. They wouldn't be able to just plow it over onto their neighbors' properties. That is correct. And it does have reduced room for that. That is correct.
And my scare is though that when you put that snow, even if you left it on your own property, you're putting mounds of snow that are eventually going to melt and run onto those neighbors' property. So I'd like to see something within this that could be looked at when the engineer looks at it.
No. Bruce, we're beyond that, sorry.
I think maybe the one concern I had, and I was approached about this, one was that is there potential for more development up there? And I think Jennifer said no, but not sure. Is there absolutely, this is the only thing that they can do up there?
At this point in time, what I've said was they had a proposal for 3 severances along the north. The county looked at that and said there's not sufficient sight lines for 3 driveways. And they had an engineer and he identified one. Right now, currently, and all provincial planning documents, the county official plan and the township official plan does not allow subdivision development in the rural area, which is that area on the top of the hill. So that area is not in a settlement area, it's in the rural area, and it is residential, like subdivision development is not permitted there.
Anything further, Bruce? I guess I would like to provide the comment that I certainly believe there's an opportunity for additional information and better information on this proposal. Certainly, I agree with some of the previous comments that, and one in particular, that we're left with the specifics of what's on paper in front of us. We haven't had the opportunity to take the concerns that's been brought forward today and discuss it with the applicant or the applicant's agent, because they're not here. There may be solutions we don't know. There may be concerns that continue that we don't know. So in respect to a previous comment from committee member Williamson, I think, and others, I believe we do have an opportunity that we could consider it being deferred. I mean, we have other opportunities. We can, and I'm just listing them in no particular order. We can certainly approve it with the conditions set forward. We can approve it with conditions modified. We can deny it, or we can defer it. And to my knowledge, those are the options that the committee members can consider. We do have a prepared motion, and I will read that, and we may set that aside very quickly. Where on earth did I put it? Thank you. This is the prepared motion. That application B 16-23 by Rachel Pickle to several parcel of land for the creation of a new development rural lot in part lot 19 concession 4 be approved subject to the following conditions. And they are listed 1 through 9. And they've been in our package and we as committee members have seen that. Again, I emphasize that's the prepared motion. I'm now going to turn to the committee and ask for a motion from the floor, please. Larry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I motion that we defer this application and so that we can further investigate or refer and get some information from the applicant and get some information that you've just described. Because at this moment, it's not acceptable to me, but I think we should defer it.
Okay, it's motion to defer for additional information and consultation. Seconder, Mark, any further comments or questions? All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. I'll just address the audience. If you have any questions, this is not the appropriate time, but if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to staff. You know, I'm going to say not today even because it's late in the day, but you know, in a future day, if you have any questions on our process or further information you wish to share, please feel free to do so. I'll turn that over to Jennifer.
Through you, Chairman Jib. If you would like additional information, did you leave your email addresses and everything out there on the attendance sheet? Then I can keep you apprised of anything else that goes on, and if there will be further public meetings, that sort of thing. Okay. Okay.
Item 10 is other business. We have none. Item 11 is adjournment, and we have a prepared motion that the Committee of Adjustment meeting held on, what is today, February 13th, 2023, be adjourned at 3:07 PM. Do I have a mover, please? Moved by Mark, seconded by Bruce. All those in favor, carried. Thank you.